Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Talking Skritt. I'm your host, John, better known as Dale Roniak's been. We have a fantastic show for you. New balance patch rolls in, a little tiny one, to hold us over. And a bunch of things return to the gem store and much more. But first, let me introduce you to my, fellow host. She's an editor at Guild Mag, writes for MMORPG.com and also her own site, MMORly.com, and loads of others. If you're not on the internet and if you're on the internet and don't know about Arly, shame on you. Her standing desk allows the airways to open up more, now which allows for better roars. Say hello to Robin.
Yay! I was going to roar, but then I was like, no, that would be terrible to do that.
Well, as you can see, it's a dual show again. So, last minute change and all that stuff. But, yeah, let us jump right into it. Luckily, it's not a huge news week. Like, not a lot of bombshells were dropped.
No drama.
Actually, you know what? I'll take that.
Yeah. I'm very happy there's no drama this week.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the nicer things. Oh, chat saying I need to come up with a greet for chat as well. And our most important guests every week say hello to chat.
Woo!
Is that good enough, chat? Anyway, so we had the patch notes that dropped this week, and we talked about a little last week that they said that there was going to be a balance change, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Because there was a little bit of balance for each class, not too heavy of any for any particular one, but we'll definitely talk about that. But yeah, let's talk about the things that came in the patch notes besides the balance stuff. So the new novelties category, they talked about this when they first introduced the novelties category, which if you don't know, they added a category that would have
the toys, all the toys.
Yeah, all the toys and stuff, and they said that they were eventually going to add the tonics, which they did this past Tuesday. So now you can throw in so many tonics.
I have so many more tonics than I have of anything else in the game. Like, I don't have anywhere near all of the tonics, but I have a lot of the tonics. I was actually, the last week I gathered a bunch of them all together in the same place because I was like, I don't even know what tonics I have anymore. I have so many. They're spread around on so many characters.
I had all mine on one character. So
wow.
Because that was like my party. It was on Doppio. I'm not gonna lie. That's like my party character.
Remember when I was doing the jumping puzzles and I was trying to do all of the jumping puzzles using the cat tonic, which made it harder.
Yeah, I don't know why you did, because that's always been the tough thing.
Crazy.
Oh, chat's saying now they're seeing all the stuff that they're missing. Yep, that's how they get you.
Yeah, that is the downside. It's like, I don't have that. Ooh, we do need a bookshelf for all the books. That'd be great.
That would be nice. I mean, that was like a system that they were kind of thinking about, because they were going to do like more books for.
Right.
Originally, I think, because if you played in the first beta, I think they had like them still as books for like the skill points or hero points now, I guess. Challenges. Because I remember in one of them, like it might have been just the very first one. It was like the ones you channeled. It gave you like a book for it, yeah. Then they scrapped that, but yeah, I would not mind a bookshelf or like chat saying a codex,
Well, like if they did a bookshelf that, like you could have in your home or something and you fill it up, that would be cool. But also have it work like the collection system where you can access the stuff anywhere. That would be cool.
I was gonna say what if they had a separate collection that gave you like maybe a certain codex that allowed you to access it. Because in my mind I was like, well, that could be the Gemstorium, but I would much prefer a collection thing that would tie into like the game. But I could see that being a Gemstore thing, which
I still occasionally carry the Marjorie's book around that had the first like introduction with her with that noir style detective thing, which was our introduction to her. I still carry that, and every now and again I'll click it and just watch it because that is such a good little cutscene.
Yeah, I think I have that, like the model of oh, what's the place that just recently, well, just came back in the what, lunar? No, it was for the anniversary. The place with the Zephyrite.
Oh, the Four Winds Bazaar.
Yeah, I couldn't think of the name of the map, but I still have
Separate
like that.
Sanctum? Is that what it was?
I don't know. Labyrinthine
Labyrinth Cliff. Nah.
Thank you, chat. And that's why you're in the
We're terrible.
have the most. Yeah, that's why you have the biggest box. You guys are so important. But yeah, I still have that model thing, and every once in a while, check it out and. Yeah, the Zephyr Sanctum model. Okay, so see, you were half right. That's the model, but yeah, the map was the glyphs. All right, but yeah, so I think it actually, going back to it, I think, doesn't that go in the novelty thing too? So
I
know
I
the
think
water,
so.
the water balloon bucket and stuff like that did, which kind of functions a little bit similar, but anyway, so yeah, now you can add tonics. They added the ability to put the Sun's Refuge portal scroll into the Season 4 portal tome. Yay!
Yay!
And basically fixed a number of texture stretching and clipping issues with the Dreadnought Raptor skin, which I personally don't have one, but I did hear some people saying they really didn't notice much of a change.
Yeah.
But I don't know if chat maybe noticed anything different, but it'd be nice to see like a before and after to see if we can kind of compare it or something.
Like, I'm wondering how bad it was. I'm wondering if it. So to go back in the WoW area for a bit, there is a bug with bear form for druids where when we dodged, it would look like the bear folded in on itself, for a second. It was very weird. We were getting sucked into a portal or something and collapsing in on ourselves. So I don't think it was anywhere as that bad of a glitch, but I'm really curious on what the glitch was. If it was just parts of it clipping through itself, or what was going on there.
Yeah, it's not too sure. That's why, maybe if you're watching some YouTube and you have it, maybe you have some screenshots before and after or something. Or, I know Dolphy's would be a before, so if someone has it, maybe they can kind of do a comparison of. She kind of does a rotating view of it. But yeah, so little updates, some bug fixes to the new Living Story map. They made the inaccessible terrain that's in the middle of the section of the map, there used to be a fog of war, kind of creeping into the middle of the map, I think from the top of it. But they made that section of the map so you actually, there's no longer there. I guess people were so
the way it was, it looked like there was an area that you haven't cleared out. So if you're trying to clear out the map, you're just trying to get to that area and you're like, why can't I get there? Frustrating.
Also, costume brawl toys are now classified as rare. Also some event updates, so just more polish for the new map, which is definitely good for making sure the map runs fine, because like I said, I think this is one of the better Living Story maps. It's
it's overall just great to be in that map.
And it's nice because it varies a lot. You can go to one spot and it's different, and honestly, if they ever make a demo area for maybe to take to conventions or something like that, I would say that map, because you can kind of get the different weather effects, random, kind of thing. So it kind of shows off the quality of the game in different aspects without having them go to different areas.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently. See, ArenaNet can't win. People wanted that little fog of war thing gone. Now it's a square map.
Yep, now it's a square again.
Oh my god. all the maps are squares. The map is nothing but a big game of Tetris. What happens when Arena gets a Tetris? The world collapses and everything's gone. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, Living Story episode 4 update. They just tweaked a couple of things throughout the some of the I think one of the boss encounters they kind of tweaked with. I don't know. I'm kind of slightly avoiding spoilers for people that still haven't possibly. But so they're addressing some of the concerns of like some of the encounters that you will have to face. So definitely, if maybe this is your second or third playthrough, maybe it's a little bit better for you now. You maybe you're sitting there going, oh, this part was crap. I never want to play it again. Well, it's gotten a little bit better, and I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about if you play through it.
Yeah, I'm happy with the adjustments they made, because like my feeling on it was that it was just slightly overtuned, and like it was particularly not fun if you were playing with other people, because you got in a situation where you couldn't get them back up without very likely you dying as well. So yay, adjustments.
So any other thoughts on the patch notes besides the balance stuff before we hop into balance itself?
I don't think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, let us talk about, like I said, the other section of the patch notes, which was balance. So we'll go, and for people that don't have it, I'll throw it in the chat, and we're just going to kind of go through like if there's something you guys want to pick out, we'll go piece by piece, like as it's listed in the patch notes. So like Elementalist, Engineer, so on and so forth. And if you guys want to, as chat, bring something to the table to talk about, definitely let us know when we're at that particular one. So first up, we have the Elementalist. So what kind of things have changed with the Elementalist?
A lot of cooldown reductions, which is awesome.
No, it's not.
Yes,
They're always the favorite. Always the good favorites.
Because we're the best.
No. But yeah, as Robin's saying, like you got Transmute Lightning. The cooldown of this skill has been reduced from 25 seconds to 10.
That's a huge
as originally
reduction.
Intended. Bull. I mean, come on. How did you miss by 15 seconds?
That's a heck of a mistype, right?
Yeah. I don't believe that as originally intended. But yeah, they little bug fixes.
Yeah, because some of the abilities would appear when you were not in tune to that element, which didn't make sense at all. So that was a problem.
Yeah.
The interesting one to me is the superior elements. They split the cooldown. Oh wait, the critical chance of the thing between PvE and PvP. And what's interesting to me is that in PvE it's a 10% chance, but in PvP it's a 15% chance. And I would have expected it to be reversed. It's a little odd to me that it has a higher percent in PvP. I don't know why exactly, but that seemed odd to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, I mean, they're just making elementals more highly wanted. That's the dev's favorite.
It's the best profession. It's not my fault. It's just the way it is.
When they screwed up Conjured Weapons build I had. It was
Are you
dead
still sad about that?
Not just sad, bitter.
Wow. Did you delete your Elementalist?
Well, no. I got a farm presence.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Guild Wars 1 person to me. I'm never going to delete a character. I'll just be a horrible person and buy more character slots if I want another Elementalist.
There you go. Wow.
And I'm still hopeful that they'll make Conjured Weapons... make Conjured Weapons great again.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, part of me hated that when I popped in my head, but I was like, it was one of those moments where my brain's like, this is all I'm
Like,
giving you
go
until you
with
say it. Yeah, my brain's like, this is all I'm gonna give you until you say it.
That's awesome. But yeah, overall, I think it's really good changes.
Yeah, I think chat sums it up best. Jack of all trades, master of all.
We're the best. Nobody's ever going to keep us down.
Should we just end it there? That's the balance notes for Elementalist. Absolutely still, but master of more than all. Yeah. But yeah, let us move away from the Elementalist and talk a little bit about the Engineer. I think I spelled that. No, I did not. Spelling is hard. Anyway, so it looks like once again some increased duration of conditions, just slight ones. They're not Elementalist. But yeah, it looks like, for like stuff like fragmentation shot, they increased the duration of bleeding inflicted from 4 seconds to 5. Similarly for poison dart, the poison on that 6 to 7. Yeah, it kind of just looks like different conditions just kind of got a little bit of a bump.
Yeah, the power wrench one is interesting to me. They do the trait no longer increases toolkit damage or turret repairs. And now reduces the recharge time of the engineer's elite spec by 3 seconds when they dodge, in addition to its previous 33% toolkit recharge reduction. Oh. So that's an interesting change. I don't play engineers, so I don't know how big of a deal of it is, but it sounds like that's a pretty big change to me.
Yeah. Now, is that this trait now reduces the recharge time of the engineer's elite skill by 3 seconds when they dodge? I'm assuming that means that just knocks off 3 seconds theoretically each time they do it, right?
I don't know, but I would imagine
because it would be weird if it was like
there are limited amounts you can dodge, so yeah, why not?
Yeah, I was gonna say it'd be weird if like it almost worked like originally was the mesmer skill that they brought with it, was where it like kind of reduced your cooldowns and stuff like that for X amount of time. It'd be weird if it was like that, where just for did it for 3 seconds. It's like, oh, I almost got it, and it went back up.
Right. No, I think it reduces it every time you dodge.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty nice. Chat's liking it. Their Condi NG got buffed. Yeah. You guys got, like I said, you guys got a little bit of a buff. You're nowhere in Elementalist tier, but
hey, we're not the best like Condi,
Yeah, you're probably like second or third. She's not denying it. That's the thing. But yeah, so looks like some pretty solid positive changes for the engineer, which is good. Next up,
looks like Guardians got smashed in the face with the Nerf hammer a little bit.
Yeah. I guess everybody can't get buffs. So yeah, next up was the Guardian. So yeah, I guess chat was waiting for it. So yeah, you know how the other ones got increases to damage and conditions and
reductions on cooldowns,
I guess they had to take that from somewhere. The whole idea of balance. You can't just load it all on there.
Thank you, Guardians.
Yeah, you're all welcome. Guardians, the new support meta, because they just take from us and give it to everybody else. There you go.
Yeah, that's totally how it works. They're like, the balance team sits around. We're like, all right, we want to buff Elementalist by 3%. So Guardians, hand over some stuff.
Hey, I played what was it on Steam, like Dev Tycoon or something like that, where you basically had so many points to a lot. It's like, could I put it in this, but then I could lower this one, and then so yeah, that's how balance works, right?
Totally.
Yep.
That's an accurate representation of it. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. It's all just point based, like stat wise.
You did get some. Oh wait, no, never mind.
Oh, that hurt. That hurt.
Well, I was reading the mantra of liberation, and I saw the has been reduced from 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 8 seconds, 5 seconds. I was like, oh, that's good. But then I realized it's a boon duration that they reduced on both of those. So I was like, oh, never mind. My bad. Oh, big game hunter damage increase is increased from 10 to 20%.
Okay, we got one. And, in empowered might, the radius is bigger. Okay, we got. There's a little bit of glimmer of hope.
Yeah, it's not all nerfs. Oh, you got a movement speed for Soaring Devastation. Says in addition to its other effects, the trait now grants an increased 25% movement speed when the Wings of Resolve is not on cooldown.
At least that's nice that we kind of have an innate speed boost now.
Yeah.
I don't think we had one for, ever.
Like, why are you so slow?
Oh, I have a Norn, so it's even worse. Like in the biggest Norn I could make, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly, chat. Guardians can actually now keep up now. We can't do any damage, but we can keep up with the fight to make it look like we're participating.
You're supposed to take damage and keep people alive. That's your role.
Yeah, but unfortunately the problem was we couldn't get there faster. Everybody got there before and like, why aren't we taking damage? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
But now at least we can keep up with the fight.
Right.
Poor Guardians. Oh, man. Guardians, the bless of professions.
Oh. Wait, Guardians are free to play now? Just Guardians?
Yep. They're changing that. They're not actually if someone's just started like oh, so Guardians are the only playable class in the free option. Okay. No.
That would have been terrible. That would have been a terrible idea.
Yeah, especially with these changes.
Oh. All right, how about Mesmer?
Oh, I think Mesmer's perfectly fine. I think no one had a problem with Mesmer, right?
Everybody's happy? Awesome.
Yeah, I think everything was perfectly fine with Mesmer. Let me hide you before you can say other. No. So they made some further corrections to Mesmer, and I believe in particular the Chronomancer. Chat's already getting to it. Yeah, it's not so good. At least all the Chronomancers. It seems like they're making the rotation to be the kind of still maintain like the tankiness a lot more difficult.
So like, and I see chat saying that they made it bland and annoying to play. Like, is it just like what's more boring about it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't play Mesmer, so if a Mesmer player out there knows why it's more bland, but I know a lot of the traits. So okay, you just spam everything off. So basically they turned it into whack-a-mole.
Okay, so it's not like you're making choices about which skill you want. It's just whatever's off cooldown, you hit it.
That kind of reminds me of, what was it, the Death Knight tank when it first came out? Like, or basically you were just playing whack-a-mole.
Can I just tell you a quick story about that? I leveled my Death Knight to max level when it first came out and never realized how the runic system works, that you could only use abilities when you have the runes available for it, because I literally just smashed what was available because like it worked.
Yeah,
and,
no,
like,
that's
I was literally max level and somebody was like, well, you got to watch your runic power. I was like, well, what?
Well, unfortunately, that's what it kind of sounds like for what's happening to Mesmer here, which is unfortunate because, yeah, it doesn't make for engaging gameplay. So hopefully they kind of relook at this. I mean,
yeah, It's kind of weird that chat's saying that you want 2 chronomancers in raid, which I wonder if that's intended or not. So raids are 10 people. We have what, 9 professions. So like you're going to have at least 2 of something. But my understanding was originally with raids is they wanted to make it so that, you know, you could easily bring whatever combination and
you wanted to take the person and not necessarily the class.
Right. But if like it's highly like if having 2 chronomancers is just that useful, that's like taking a spot away from somebody else. That's kind of, I don't know. I can't imagine that they really want it to work that way. Maybe they'll tweak it some more to try and make it less ideal to have 2 of those as opposed to something else. 1/5 of every raid group goes to Chrono Gel.
The best way to solve Chronomancer issues with boon upkeep is getting rid of boon upkeep. Yeah. Make them all stack in intensity instead of duration. I mean, it did tremendous wonders for the conditions themselves. I mean, so yeah, maybe look at it like that. I'd be fine with Arena just undoing every change made to Mesmer over this year. Yeah, it hasn't been for a lot of people hasn't been a great year for the Mesmer.
Bjorn Ricker makes an interesting point. He says just because you can take 2 Mesmers does not mean you can take other comps to cover the same moons. I think he meant can't. Revs, healer, and 2 support firebrands cover exactly the same as 2 chronos and a druid. And he says this is a community problem, people confusing with most efficient with viable, which has been a consistent problem.
In this game, in any game really, like
right.
People always misconstrue the idea of meta as required.
Well, like even back when we just had the dungeons and there weren't even fractals or anything, like sometimes looking for group was terrible because people just wanted to get through the dungeon as fast as possible. And if you weren't filling the role they felt you should be filling so they could do that, they wouldn't take you. So it's a consistent issue.
And I think that's and it's like in the end, that's fine if that's how you want to play. It's just, I hate that that's the default for pugging. Of getting it over quicker.
Yeah.
Which I guess that would be the one negative I would say about the community. Like in open world, you know, everybody's like, oh, the community, it's so helpful. Like you can always ask for questions and stuff. When you get to like, and this is going back to even like you said at launch, the idea at default for pugging was get it done as quick as possible. It's not like I'm going to go make 4 new friends. No, I want to get in and get out and get away from these people and get on, like,
right.
Like, that just seems like the mentality for pugging. Like,
well, it kind of made sense because back when the game first launched, those dungeons were hard. They were difficult. Like it took knowing what you needed to do and doing it right to get through them. But at the same time, like, I don't know, it was fun to be able to play with pretty much anybody. Like I remember everybody at one point just wanted melee stacks because they wanted everybody to always stack up on all the bosses. That's what you were doing. Anybody wanted to play out range, you were a problem.
Yeah, I still remember like, cause what was it? The Ranger longbow. It's like the further you're out you were, or at least I know that was with the Mesmer greatsword. I'd always see like a friend out there with like the bow or something and people like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like, people were always complaining about bear bow.
Yeah. Oh, and you know, Bjorn's on the side of Chrono's in a great spot. So I have talked to a couple of people that don't mind the Chrono change, but it does seem like the community as a whole, the majority of it seems like they're not a fan of the Mesmer changes.
Right.
But yeah, there are people that do like it.
Well, I was going to say, I think they needed to do something with Chronos in general, because I think at the beginning of the year, expansion, whatever, this has been a whole year with this expansion at this point, hasn't it? Like almost?
I'm trying to
lose track of time.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, it's how long, like when did POF come out?
But nonetheless, they were really strong for a while,
Yeah,
and
September 22nd, 2017. So
yeah,
just past a
so
year.
like, I mean, being really strong isn't bad, but you need to be like within some of the other things, and I think they're bringing them back in line a little bit. So
You've had your fun. What do you think? You think you're an elementalist?
hey, like I said, we're never at the top. We're just near the top always.
You're hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
Bjorn saying the community as a whole would remove the Chronomancer spec because they think that will open up slots for other specs, but that is a mute argument because a different spec will take its spec place on the meta. Yeah, and we are back to the same problem. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. No matter what, there is always going to be somebody that's at the top. And I think the issue is you need to be, it's how big of the gap there is between the top and everything else. Like if it's all really close, then that's pretty good balance because you're never going to have everybody being exact. Otherwise, everybody's doing the exact same thing and there's no interest or flavor. It's the problem of balance. You either make everybody the same and it's boring, or people have different things and there's always going to be somebody at the top. Mm-hmm. So like, I think that's what they were trying to do a bit there. But shall we move on to Necromancer?
Yeah, I was going to say that was probably the biggest kind of upset for the professions. So let us, like you said, move on to the Necromancer. Yes, I spelled that right. Okay. All right. So, yeah, it looks like modified from 3 stacks for 5 seconds to, I don't know, would you consider that a nerf? Like, for example, Dark Path, the bleeding this skill inflicts has been modified from 3 stacks for 5 seconds to 2 stacks for 8 seconds. So,
I think
I don't know the exact
math on it. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know the exact math on it, but like, I think it works out to being relatively about the same. It just takes longer to deal the damage. A little bit longer, not like, a minute longer. Can you imagine? A top that lasted an entire minute. Oh my God.
And I kind of agree with like Bjorn about like, and I always felt the Scourge was, and I think we've said in the past, the Scourge was supposed to feel like more of a support for the Necromancer profession.
Yeah.
But it just became like super condy. Like.
Right. Yeah, Scourge is, I love Necromancer in general, but Scourges, I feel like they've been too strong for too long at this point. Like, I don't know. I think they're having trouble balancing it, really, because it's one of those things that it would be really easy just to nerf everything, but that would be too much. Like, finding the right incremental changes there is not necessarily easy.
Yeah, they could nerf everything, but then they would have a Guardian. Better. But
Jeez.
it is kind of funny though that it is the Scourge profession that's making it. It's being the Scourge to their balance.
Right. I do like this change that Quickening Thirst. This trade no longer grants movement speed when the Necromancer is using a dagger. It now grants increased movement speed when the Necromancer's health is above 75%. I think that's it makes it much more likely to use it, because I don't ever use dagger on Necromancer, but like for SPVP and especially, one of the annoyances is like running around and trying to get to the points. And as a Necromancer, I always felt like I was kind of slow. I was like, I'll get there one of these days, guys.
Yeah.
Just hold out for me. So like having a trait that gives you that movement bonus for those times when you are generally at full health and you're just moving between points is a huge help. I like that a lot.
But but yeah, most changes were to Condi. Yeah, it seems like across the board that it kind of was like that. Like we said with the engineer, seems like necromancer a little bit here.
Well, I think across the board, ever since they made Condi actually viable at all, they've had a lot of trouble balancing it. And like we go with really strong shifts of Condi being really, really strong and overpowered to it being weak. And like finding the right balance there is difficult, because whereas like, you know, power builds and stuff where you just got your main hits and whatever, there's more math and more variance that goes into condition damage. So it makes it by nature a little more difficult to balance. But yay for making it viable at all.
Yeah. I always see that brought up when there's balance changes, especially for the necromancers. Yeah, they really, people are always outcrying about like the Power Reaper, and like it seems like they never really, maybe because they're trying to focus on the you know, Scourge problem that they kind of have, but yeah, I would like to see a little bit of Power Reaper love.
Well, yeah, Power Reaper was really strong for a while, and then like it got backed off. And I think it does need some more buffs, but honestly, I feel like they need to figure out how to fix Scourge first. That feels like much more of a
higher priority.
Imperative. Yeah, and like I generally play Power Reaper in PvP, so like I would love the buffs. Buffs would be great. It would help, but like I feel like the Scourge are a bigger deal that they need to be taken care of. Power Reaper isn't viable in raids at the moment? Is it really that bad?
Well, probably when like, you know, with Epidemic and stuff, you can bring so much condition to the table. As the meta, you probably would want that over anything else. But
yeah, Zachariox, I honestly prefer them to buff in small increments rather than doing big buffs and then big nerfs and then big buffs and big nerfs. Like I prefer the incremental approach instead of the wide swings. So I don't know.
And see, and I think we keep going back to this thing, and like what Bjorn's keeps bringing up is, yeah, it's absolutely viable. It's but like
but can you find a group that will take you is the question.
I'd say like Monica saying in chat is like she constantly gets turned down for raids because unfortunately, and you know, this kind of goes back to, which is the sad thing, that this might maybe not how they intended it to mean, but you know how they were saying like raids are not meant to be pugged, because like they made it sound like, and I think that was their true intention. Like I'm not going to try to say like ArenaNet was like shamming us, or like, but you know, the idea of it was supposed to be so challenging and stuff,
right?
But it just seems like you shouldn't pug because the community isn't as great as maybe we all thought.
Well, you know, every community has segments, and some of those segments are awesome and some of them are not so awesome. It happens.
But I mean, you know, I am saying, like, I'm not saying this is like all raiders, but I'm just saying like kind of the pugging thing in general, because that goes back to pugging usually means doing it quick, getting it over with, like speed running. Like they don't want to communicate. It's like, do you know the fights? Like in any game, really, not just, you know, Guild Wars 2, but.
Well, and this is the thing we've talked about before. The meta is one thing. If you have the meta spec and whatever, but you can't do it like at optimum, but you could do one of the other specs at optimum, like you're not really gaining anything by doing the meta. Like you have to also know your abilities and whatnot.
Well, I feel bad for you, Monica, if that isn't pugging. It's, I mean, and that's the thing. It's actually, I wouldn't even say pugging kind of extends to the specialty guilds, because I know a lot of guilds do pop up for like this. You know, this is a raiding guild, like because we have that system where you can be in multiple guilds, and my dogs are outraged by it.
How dare they?
Yeah, how dare they be in multiple? But it's almost like pugging, but with a smaller list.
Yeah.
Because you're just focusing on your guild, but it's not a guild of necessarily friends or even like-minded, but there are kind of like-minded. It's like we all want to raid, but maybe have different values. But I don't know if you want to talk real quick, or maybe even talk more about the necro, or maybe move on to ranger while I go check on.
Let's start on ranger while you go take care of your dogs.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the ranger, and I'll be right back.
Let's see. So lots of changes with ranger. Call of the Wild having its radius increased from 750 to 900 is a pretty huge change. It's a lot of increase of ranges, it looks like. Honed Axis is interesting. The ferocity gain from this trait is now split. It grants a base of 120 ferocity and an additional 120 ferocity when rangers are wielding an axe, which is interesting, like, because that makes it useful for not using axes, but still like gives incentive to use axes. That's interesting because they were trying to move away from some of those traits that required specific weapons. It's a little bit of an odd choice, I think. Nayo?
What's up?
All right. So I was just talking about, you remember how when they gave the preview for this balance patch update, they said that they were looking at a lot of traits that required specific weapons and making them more generic so they'd be more useful. One of the things we did with the Ranger was they took Honed Axis and made it gained the ferocity from this gain is now split. It grants a base of 120 ferocity and an additional 120 ferocity when Rangers are wielding an axe, which, like, sure, you can use it while not using an axe, but, like, I'm not sure it's really worthwhile. Like, it's still incentivized as the weapon, you know?
Yeah. Like, if you're specifically going for, like, a ferocity build, you're going to want to lean towards the axe more so than it's...
Right. I don't really get the, like, especially when you have the other options out there, I don't know how making it that split helps with what they were trying to accomplish there. It does make your other weapon a bit more powerful when you're switching from axes, but I don't know.
And Mithrin, you're talking about when you go underwater and it's useless? Get on Revenant's level. We're finally becoming useful underwater. It's time for someone else to be in the darkness of the water. And
yeah, like Bjorn, it's because Zayna is consistently inconsistent. Oh.
Yeah, that is kind of funny that when you did mention that, it seems like for the most part that was kind of only honed in on the Ranger from,
right.
I mean, at least so far. It's like,
yeah, like what changed with the Necromancer was just all around a good change and made the trait useful no matter what weapon you were using, which was what they said their goal was. This is just weird to me. I don't know.
I wonder if something got maybe changed at the last minute, or I don't know.
They did change two-handed training so that the trait no longer has a 50% to grant fury when striking with a great sword or spear. Now they gain fury whenever they disable a foe, which is useful. That makes it useful with a lot of the weapons. So in Strider's defense, the trait no longer requires a sword to gain a quickness while evading. So those ones, they really did take out the weapon. I guess maybe with Honed Axes, they felt like if every trait didn't require like a weapon to get the ability with the Ranger, because I think Rangers had a lot of traits that required weapons comparative to other classes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, like, I know they had a lot, and I'm trying to think of like some of the other professions, like to see if they had like as many. But yeah, I think
they had a lot. So I think they probably, my guess would be that they were trying to retain some of it while making the traits still useful, more useful. my
Like Zechariah
assumption.
saying, MMO Inc.'s tweet after the patch. No change to druids, not a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be true. What chat's saying, it could be one of the balance patches that's kind of setting the stage. So,
Right. I mean, those are really all the interesting things with Ranger, I think.
yeah. Let us move on to the Revenant. So, what? So the faceted nature. Hey, reduce the energy cost. Yay!
Yay!
Stacks of might that this trait grants. Reduced? Well, I guess
Yeah.
in PvP, because I
Yeah.
think, what was it? Wasn't it Power Revenant that was pretty strong in PvP? Or was it Convi?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know we've talked about it in the past, but I'm
Yeah.
not an avid PvP player. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that.
Yeah, I don't. So like I don't get into like the whole meta community of what people talk about on things. It's just from my experience. So like what I consider powerful has a lot to do with how me as a power necro runs into other classes. I don't remember revenants being a particular problem for me in general. So I don't. If it was Condi or power, I don't know. But either way.
She eliminated them equally.
Yes. Which is why Deadeye should be deleted.
But yeah, it kind of seems like Revenant got a little bit of nerf in PvP, but PvE kind of got, a kind of a buff. It seems like mostly.
A little bit, nothing huge. I don't think though. Just little tweaks here and there.
Yeah, it's no. Like, once again, it's no elementalist. But yeah, and like we said, this isn't one of the big balance updates. This was kind of like a small little tweaking type thing, so there isn't a whole lot to.
Well, one thing, like on the topic of the weapon traits, they changed Vicious Lacerations. So this trait now grants its boon when Revenants critically strike, in addition to when they strike with a sword skill. The number of maximum stacks has been reduced from 5 to 3, and the damage increase per stack has been increased from 2% to 3%.
And like Chad is saying, the righteous rebel that kind of grants you the alacrity type stuff will now affect 10 targets, which it's like that's always that thing. It's like, I don't know, I felt like that should have kind of been like a sweeping thing of like, now that they've added 10 man rating, I felt like all boons should, like, it for me when I see that, I'm just like,
I mean, it depends. They have some things that prefer your party over your squad and all of that. And those are interesting mechanics to have, because it makes it matter how you set up your squad. If they made everything just go to the entire squad, it would matter less like how you set up the individual squads. You just be like, all right, people, go. Which, I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it just makes it less interesting.
Well, I guess more of a uniform thing, because there's been other classes that have had alacrity that goes to 10 people. It just seems like it's weird that it's per, like, it's not per boon, it's per skill. Like,
right. Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind if there's like, oh, this particular boon only goes to 5 people that, favor your group over your entire raid, whereas it seems like, oh, alacrity from this character will affect 10 people, but alacrity from this character will only affect 5 until we change it. It's like,
yeah, but I mean, there's also like, you can trait for some of those to make it go to 10. It's just then you have to give up something else to do it, which I think is the right way to do it. To make it go to everybody, you have to lose something. I like trade-offs. I don't like power for nothing. Like, if you're going to do something, you have to give up something else. It's a good balance mentality to have.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the Revenant?
Sword for life.
let us talk about the thief. Oh boy. The thief, it's one of those ones that had no problems. I mean, we have no one on the podcast to refute.
I mean, thieves are fine, Deadeyes are not.
Okay. But yeah, they kind of got whacked pretty hard with the Nerf bat.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad Age isn't here to talk about it because I'm sure he has feelings.
I know, and that's why if he watches this back, I'm just like, yep, thief, Deadeye, perfectly fine. I would even consider all these buffs. Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting to me though is that they have a couple of the skills that they had split between PvP and World versus World or PvE and competitive modes, and they've combined them so that they work the same in all modes, which is an opposite direction from how they've been going with things. It's kind of interesting. That's Double Strike and Wild Strike are the ones they did that too, and I'm curious why they made that change.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's definitely interesting that they went that route, like you said. But I kind of like what Chad's thinking of, like a rework of stealth. So basically, of having a version, and they're saying 1 to 2 seconds of full invisibility, and then kind of make it decay into like partial invisibility type thing. Like
I really just, my main thing, well, not my main thing, but one of my things with thieves is I wish they would get rid of being able to finish while stealth. Like, it just makes no sense to me at all, and I hate it because it like makes it so that the person who is downed has very little that they can do about it, you know? And it kind of defeats the whole point of being down instead of dead. Just, it's terrible.
Yeah, it kind of seems like a lot of their stuff, like the initiative costs went up for PvP and World v. World. I mean, it seems like they got a little bit of a buff with Thrill of the Crime. The might applied by this trait has been increased from 1 stack for 10 seconds to 3 stacks for 10 seconds, which...
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I do like that they took stability away from Daggerstorm. Daggerstorm hits hard, and to have it granting stability as well made it just too ridiculous. I think that's a good change because it allows other players to actually be able to do something. I don't like things that leave other players with no real option. Like, especially in PvP, there should always be some counter. You might not have it available, but like there should be some ability that other players have that they could do something to do something. Like, you know.
You have the ability. You have the ability to die. But Daredevil has an elite skill that basically finishes you off with no chance at recovering, though. It takes skill to use it, though.
See, that I'm mostly okay because it has a skill component to it. Like, if something is granting a really big power like that, then if it takes skill to do it, then totally that's cool because you're putting in like an effort and like there's something extra you're going into, so you should get more out of it. The whole like stomping when you're stealth in general is just like if there was a skill component to that, then I'd be more fine with it because it meant not everybody could necessarily do it. The ones who could, hey, good job, you know?
But yeah, it seems like, you know, Chad's also taught like with the idea of stealth rework. I guess that would be a blanket like mechanic for, since, you know, other classes can pull off stealth as well, so but granted not as much as stealth stomping from a thief. I mean, that's
that's the thing, like any reworking of how stealth in general works, they have to take into account how that the other classes, otherwise they would have to just figure out like to do it with the specific skills that grant stealth with thief if they wanted to localize that.
Oh, and Chad is saying that finishing from stealth also has a bug that makes the animation start from the start if you get revealed. So you can't really know, like, you know, when to interrupt them type thing, or which, that's not good. Yeah, that definitely would need to be addressed, especially, if we're trying to make it like esports or
Mhm.
so
Although I think they've given up on that.
yeah. But like in the mentality of if you want PvP to
Right.
be a serious thing, it's like if there's a animation bug that makes it better for you to take someone out, that's not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, any other thoughts on the thief?
I don't think so.
Thief
Delete
in a
that.
great spot. I can't wait for H to hear this. Last up, Warrior. So, how did the Warrior fail? Wow.
Wow. So I know what you're thinking subconsciously.
This whole balance pass has been horrible. After Guardian, I just checked out. How did the Warrior prevail in the balance patch is what I was trying to go for.
There's some interesting changes. Like Fierce Blow, and in addition to its previous effects, the skill now deals increased damage when striking a controlled foe. Control effects include stun, daze, knockback, pull, knockdown, sink, float, launch, taunt, and fear. So there's a lot that it would apply for.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good change.
It looks like a kind of you got increased damage for some of the skills.
Increased duration for Fan of Fire.
But yeah, it actually seems like they didn't fail. It pretty much kind of got out with a lot of nice little buffs.
Yeah.
Once again, not as good as the elemental is, but
what? On repost, it says the physical damage of the skill has been increased by 100%. The time to complete its attack animation and aftercast has been reduced by 0.25 seconds. What was the damage increase of it before?
I was looking at that because I was curious because it said that they gave it a pretty big damage increase.
Yeah, it's huge.
But I don't know. Is there any Warrior players out there? Or have you gone up against a Warrior and are like, why did they just one punch me?
I'm like, ow, my face.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, Warrior seems like they fared out pretty well in this. So enjoy your Warrior while it lasts. But yeah, I guess we don't have that many Warrior players out there today.
Yeah, I tried it originally at the beginning of the game, but it wasn't interesting. In fact, I made a Warrior so I could make a Spellbreaker.
I remember you were that interested in the Spellbreaker. Yep. It will always bother me how they can gain 10% health HP per second with passive heals and regen while under poison. Yeah,
that's a little weird.
And then, like you said, we got the Spellbreaker. That stupid dome. Holy world. Ugh.
Man, I like Mithrin. He says players should have a turning time way faster than mounts, but still time. I feel like the player base would revolt if they added that in. Like a character being like,
yeah, what's the point of mouse turning if it feels like your character's always keyboard turning?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that would go over well.
Yeah, that would probably not. Any final thoughts on the Warrior? And any final thoughts on the balance patch in general? I think overall,
Elementalist.
I'd say I think overall it was a success, like pretty good.
And overall, I think they're making smart changes to things. I really like in general, I think I said it last week, I like the idea of making the weapon required traits more generally useful. That's a good way to go.
But what do we get next? Let me turn off the profession thing. Okay, so throughout the whole balance patch, we were talking about how it's like, how does this fare, in raids and all that stuff. Well, speaking of raids, this past guild chat, they talked about the newest raid, the Mythrite Gambit. And for people who don't know, it kind of takes place in the Mystic Forge with Zomaros.
Which I don't like. I'm curious how you get to the raid. Like, do you know? Because my brain, like, everybody goes to the Lion's Forge and jumps in the Mystic Forge. Like,
I wish that would have been the case. I don't think you can get in there that way.
No,
because a lot of them do have like a physical location, but you can also go to. But yeah, I don't think that is there, which is unfortunate.
And the entrance is in Loriner's Past, apparently.
Oh, yeah, and yeah, thank you, Eric. Yes, through the aerodrome. Oh, you enter through the same door as Hall of Chains. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Weird. Though when they were talking about it, because for people that definitely watch the guild chat, if you, once again, it's more behind the scenes, like talking to some of the devs that worked on it. Well, I think as Ruby said, and I don't know if it was the exact numbers, but how she was saying, like, they had 3 devs on. There was like there's so many more that worked on it, because she was like, when she normally asks for like a, we're going to talk about, Mythrite Gambit in guild chat, who worked on it, and they give them a list of like 30 people, and they're like,
yeah,
who,
well, like, so there's a lot that goes into it. Like, I'm sure not everybody wants to be on camera in the first place, so that eliminates some people. There are some people who probably just don't feel comfortable or don't come across well or whatever. So, like, there's a lot of considerations to who you actually see. It's interesting.
And I guess in chat saying they did mention that they didn't want an entrance in LA because it would overclutter the map. It's like, isn't LA already overcluttered? I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, it's I guess to alleviate some of that, but I don't know, it just seems like it's right there. It makes sense. But it was cool to hear some of what the devs were talking about, like I'm glad they actually said that they kind of were trying to go with like a little bit of a Willy Wonka feel for it, because I don't think I ever put 2 and 2 together, but I had that feeling when I was watching like the little trailer when they had one, and I was like, there is something about this. And when they mentioned that, and I was like, yes, you're
like oh,
like that's what I loved about it. Like, yeah, perfect. So, but I'm really glad that, and I think they even made mention of this. It's like just the positive uproar about this story and this instance, and how it was a lighter story, but I think like what Chad is saying, like kind of near the end, there is some actual risk, and I know they even talk about that more so in the guild chat as well. Trying to catch up with chat. But imagine trying to forge something down the toilet and getting a prompt into the right.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
Well, I mean, you can still throw stuff in the forge. I'm imagining, like, because when you step into the forge, like center of the forge, and it turns you into one of those things, that's when it would trigger the, entrance thing, and you can still throw things in there.
Yeah, so instead of clicking the forge to get the menu to choose to go in or forge something, you just like walk into it, and then you get a pop-up being like, do you want to go in the raid? Nope. Yeah. All right, you're a thing now.
but granted, I understand where you guys are coming from and probably what they were talking about, because I'm sure that would still irritate people. And
yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely interesting of like hearing some of their like thought behind it, and like the different boss fights of the iterations that they went through, and kind of like what we talk about of like when we have an idea and we're like, we always saying like, that caveat of we know we're not developers, It's just, is this idea feasible? And they, they're kind of talking about that where they're like, we have this
Right.
great idea, and then like the actual team was like, nah, that can't, no, no,
That's
it's
not
not a
how
thing.
it works. Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, that's a
It's definitely,
process with game and development all the time, though. You come up with an idea and then you're like, oh, wait, is this possible in our infrastructure? So.
but yeah, I definitely thought it was a good guild chat. If you can watch on YouTube, and actually
Yep.
you can save yourself, like, well, I guess not save yourself some time, but save yourself some clicking, because I know they lead right into the behind the voice things, which we're going to talk about next.
Right.
So it's like, if you watch the guild chat, you can kind of watch that as well at the end. But warning on that one, and even if you're watching this on YouTube and see the links down there for the behind the voice stuff, it kind of does have spoiler stuff for the story. So, click that at your own risk. But yeah, before we get to that, any other thoughts on the guild chat and the Mythrite Gambit as a whole? Like,
It's a cool looking raid.
I did. I had it for a second. I forget. It was something about the lore and the Largos and kind
You
of
don't
hearing
say.
yeah, I had something, but
Oh, well.
yeah, and like Chad's saying, it's just plain fun. It's I've heard overall it's a pretty great instance, and
Yeah, I have to
hopefully-
say, like, I am sad that I don't raid in Guild Wars 2. I don't have the time for it. But this is the first raid they've come out with in a while where I was like, oh man, I want to do that.
and I've heard, I actually saw a lot of that chat streaming up in for guild chat and stuff like that, and in relation to this raid is, oh, I wish I raided, or
Yeah.
which there are guilds out there. Try to find the right guild for you, because just because they raid doesn't mean that that's the guild for you.
Right.
So I think that's an important thing, and I think that's what we were kind of hitting on earlier as well, talking about that kind of stuff. But we just need a story mode for raids. Yeah, I while I agree with that, or would like to see some kind of version where, this is going down that rabbit hole, but where it doesn't really have the rewards, but you could just kind of go, like you said, go for the story. Or like I said, make a device, like, once again, making a certain device. There are get out of jail free card, just like the miss for the lore. The Asuran can just make something, hopefully, and
Right.
like maybe they can, like, there's a recording device that the Asuran can that you can get from the Asuran and go in the instance, and the raiders, when they unlock the instance, they then get a device that they can sell on the trading post that gives you like a hologram story version, so someone can still experience it. And maybe it just does a default, like, hologram of player characters, because that would probably be too much of,
Right.
oh, these are the characters that actually, like, you're not going to have the situation where it's like, oh, I want the hologram from Salt, or I want the hologram from, that would be cool and interesting, but that would probably be a lot more information that needs to be stored away, because it would have to be based on their character models and stuff. But unlocks like a hologram thing where it's like you can watch the story and see like the fight and stuff like that, and but it gives you a cleared out instance version. I think that might be a good way. Granted, I would like to have people experience the fights, but if they're trying to keep that pure for the raiders alone, I think this would be a nice way to somehow make it so raiders may be still incentivized to go into older dungeons, being like, hey, people might still want this,
Right.
to see that story version and sell it or something. But I don't know, that was one thing I always keep bringing up. But allow 50-man squads. Whew.
Yeah. I also what Mofongo brings up with how much people complain about wanting to skip story content. do you really think a story device for raids you would have to buy would be an answer? I feel like that would be a terrible answer, and a lot of people would be pissed off about it. Because, like, as much as people complain about it, there are a lot of people who really enjoy that aspect. And if they suddenly have to pay for that, that'd be a problem.
Well, I mean, it's better than what we have now.
Yes.
If we need easy mode raids as a reason to get raids faster, I am sure not a single raider would complain.
Oh yeah, they would. Raiders would complain about people completing things that they do easier. Like it'd be like the same thing as with WoW with the LFR. Like there's so much just hate and snark thrown at it because it's easy mode raiding, and people, not all people, but a lot of people who raid like having the prestige of that they did that. It's their thing, you know? And yeah, they appreciate their exclusivity. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a rabbit hole that we could definitely go down for far too long. But like I said, we can still talk about it maybe a little bit during after show, or if you're watching us on YouTube, we can talk about it there. Or I think we even have a discussion thing on our website. Like, you can talk in there. So many ways. But so yeah, like I said, the behind the voice stuff followed the guild chat thing, but they also released these as separate things on YouTube as well. So behind the voice involved, there was 2 that were released. One was with Debbie Derryberry. I hope I'm saying that right. Who does the voice of Timey, and more importantly, Belinda. Rip. And Ike Amadi, who does the voice of Gorik, and like I said, when you watch those, it does have spoilers for story 4, or episode 4, so be mindful of that if you're going to check it out. But yeah, when Debbie talks, like, we were talking about this right before the show, and I'm sure other people, I've heard a couple other people mention this, but also, you know, while she does the voice for Timey, it is just like, I mean, I don't want to like belittle it, but it is just basically her voice. And then I like how she said, you know, with the whole like kind of getting into the mind frame and the emotions, and that kind of changes the inflection of how she speaks and stuff like that. But it's very much either very close to her voice, or, you know,
her voice is like quite similar to Timey. It's like her natural voice. It was very weird.
Which is, yeah, it's just weird just seeing like, because I never saw her before, so it's like just seeing Timey's voice coming out of a human.
Yeah.
So would she re-roll? Did ArenaNet doesn't allow you know, race changes? What the heck is this?
Yeah. It was funny. Like, yeah, it's a good video. It's really interesting. You should watch it. But I was right there in that too. I was like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I don't like this. And yeah, it's like, for me, I was just like, I don't like it. I just like, I almost wanted to pull up like a picture of Timey and just be like, okay, it feels right now.
Right.
Which I'm sure you get that a lot, because I think, doesn't she also did the voice of like Jimmy Neutron, loads of other things. But yeah,
she's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But also Ike Amadi, who does the voice of Gorik, which I guess I didn't have as big of a problem. Well, first, because his voice was like different.
Yeah.
But like, you know, they cut to scenes where he's like speaking through as Gorik. It like, I think maybe because it, like, he hasn't been in the story as long as Timey, it didn't probably
you don't
that
have
infused
that
in my head.
Yeah, it's not as tight of a tie in there in your brain, because Timey's been around since season 1, right? She showed up in there. I just remember her showing up with like
Yeah, because she was
I think
hanging
it
out with
was
Bram.
Logan of all people, and like Logan and Bram, and like there was this whole weird thing where she was pitting them against each other, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, I remember because she was with Bram in the mist when they were trying to track the Aether Blades and stuff. So yeah, it was
Right.
all season 1 stuff, and
Hmm.
so yeah, she's been heavily more ingrained in the story. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting once again hearing like Ike's ideas behind Gorik and uh, just hearing them come. Like, it's a nice behind the scenes thing. I would definitely recommend it.
Right.
And I don't want to say too much because, like I said, in case people are still trying to avoid story spoilers.
Yeah.
Like I said, still warning you, do not click those if you are. But
Yeah. It's interesting to hear, like, voice acting is one of those areas of game development I think people have very little understanding of, like, how it works, what goes into it, because it's not just showing up and reading through your lines and you're done. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. And it varies from studio to studio too, because I know one of the problems that has come up in the past is sometimes voice actors get very little description of not only their character, but what's going on and what the character's feeling and all of that stuff to really know how to act the things. So, like, that makes it really difficult.
I think Ike even mentions that, and I think they show a scene where some of the devs are like kind of giving him direction for the recording, like, oh, he's really excited. I think they even say like he kind of forgets all social norms and he just kind of just blurts out and yeah, if there are people out there that kind of like look down on voice acting, I mean, you have to act just as much as
yeah,
because you're still trying to portray those emotions. You can't just be like, I'm so sad. Like, you kind of have to make your body get into that mode. Like, and
do everything in your voice.
Yeah, I'm kind of saying that because if you watch the one with Ike, kind of at the end, where he's kind of bringing the emotions, you can like see in his eyes are like almost like welling up, and I'm like, dang, like.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a good watch, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But and chat saying Timmy was introduced in the Marionette episode of Living Stories season 1. Man.
Marionette.
Which, if I no, I think that was later. I was gonna say, was that the first one with the trailer that had the voice of Morgemoth, but they were telling us it wasn't Morgemoth?
I don't think so.
No, I think that came later because that was kind of like the recap one. Because I think they showed a picture of the Marionette, but
yeah.
But yeah,
I think there was Scarlet talking to us in that one.
Lots of good trailers then. But yeah, any other thoughts on the behind the voice videos?
No, they're great to see. Want to see more?
Yeah, definitely. Just as long as they have different voices, because like I said, that's still. But that's my own personal thing.
Yeah, but your brain's breaking a little.
Yeah, it's like, my reality is shattering. But next up, we have Gem Store, and always thank you to Dolphy.net. Check out Dolphy.net so you can spend your gems more wisely. So first up, the new items, the Night Watch stool for 400 gems. And
I'm sorry.
Yep, you can buy your seat. Go ahead.
No, my brain went to the other meaning of stool when I first saw it. So, like, every time I hear it, I'm like, oh my God.
That takes it to a whole different meaning.
Right, exactly.
That one you have to pay a little bit more gems for. But yeah, no, this one's for 400 gems. And basically it's another kind of throne type thing, but very more simpler. It's just a stool.
But, never be without a seat no matter where you are in Tyria.
But yeah, so you can definitely pick up that for... Oh, go ahead.
The female Savari sitting on it. I thought she was sitting on it with like her legs just wide apart. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, when I was grabbing some of the pictures, and I was like, excuse me? I was like, this is a bit risque. Oh no, never mind. It was just the dying. Yeah, it was just like the dying and how. Of course, I think it was a character that has a butt cape, so it had like the thing still straining down, so it looked like. Yeah, I still see it every time I look at it.
The only one who thought that. I thought the same thing.
All right, good. Because yeah, when I saw that, I was clicking through. I was like, "Excuse me, please tell me." Like, I would have heard more about this if that was the case. And I look closer. I'm like, okay, no. So yeah, that was definitely threw me for a loop as well. But yeah, you can definitely pick that up for 400 gems. Next up, that is new, the Blackline Expedition contract for 1,000 gems. And you can kind of see like the UI here that Dolphy is kind of showing off. Basically, it puts a kind of board in your home instance, and you can actually send out people to collect resources once a day from one of the following maps. So it's like Dry Top or Silver Waste, Bloodstone Fen, Ember Bay, Bitterfrost Frontier, Lake Doric, Draconis Mons, and Siren's Landing. And through some experimentation, they've kind of started coming up with a sample list. So like Dry Top / Silver Waste Zone, if you send them there, you can get 2 pieces of Ambrite, 4 superior ingredient pouches, which are just cooking mats, 1 bowl of prickly pear sorbet, 3 orichalcum ore. For example, Ember Bay, Elderwood, Imperial Fragments, plate of sweet curried mussels. So it seems like you always get like a food item, it looks like, with that. You can get ancient wood logs, 3 petrified wood. So it seems like you always get the zone currency as well. They show off Siren's Landing, superior ingredient pouches, Dragonite ore, Orient pearls, some more zone currency. Another food item, fried oyster sandwich. And also an exquisite ingredients pouch, which is like cooking materials. So, like I said, you can get that for 1,000 gems. I'm wondering, do you think that's worth it for 1,000 gems?
Yeah, I think so. Because, like, you know, over time, what you'll get out of it is worth it.
And I'm assuming it works like the other board that they had, where you set it to one location and they just keep going there every day. Like, you don't have to.
Yeah, until you change it or something. I think so.
I would imagine. Yeah, I would be. Yeah, exactly. I'd be surprised if they didn't do it that way, but
they've surprised me before.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're interested in that, maybe easily farming up some materials, like some. That is definitely nice for, like you're saying, like if you're trying to farm up zone currencies, because you can get a lot of the ascended like rings and stuff from the the majority of stats. I don't think they're the POF stats, but you know, they'll have Heart of Thorns and all the stuff that we got from the Living Story traits, and also the core game stuff. So it has a good amount of stuff, and it's a kind of an easier way to get those ascended accessories. So and you'll definitely need those zone currencies. So yeah, it's definitely probably not a bad idea for just those alone. But yeah, I probably won't get it, because I kind of, for the same reasons I didn't get the crafting material one. It's just
yeah, honestly the only reason I'm not getting it is because I just spent way too much money on keys recently. So
why would you spend it on keys? trying to go for that bunny backpack or something still?
Yep, the damn bunny backpack. Still haven't gotten it. Don't want to know how many keys I've gone through. Too many.
So many that you're not spending 1,000 gems on a expedition contract.
Exactly.
But yeah, definitely
let
us know.
Thinking it's worth the money.
Yeah, definitely let us know if you're picking it up and for what reason, or maybe if you're not. Okay, now for some returning items. Whole lot of returning items. So Infinite Unbound Magic Gathering Tool Set for 2,700 gems. So that's basic. You get it as a set, so you get these like the sickle, the logging axe, and the mining pick, and they're infinite use. They are account bound. You just have to trade them between your characters. And normally those kind of run 1,000 gems a piece. Like we said, these as a bundle you get it for 2,700, so you're saving about 300.
Yep.
You're saving 300 gems, so not a bad deal if you're.
Those are the unbound ones, right? Unbound magic. Yeah, so you get unbound magic with them when you use them. So
which is kind of the universal season 3.
3, yeah, I think 3.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we're in 4 now.
Yeah, I was just trying to do the same math in my head. I was like, what are we doing now?
Yeah.
Also, the Tremor Armadillo Roller Beetle skin for 2,000 gems. And remember, this is just a skin. This doesn't unlock it on your account.
Right.
It just is a skin. And if you, for some reason, I think every time I say this, chat says you can't buy it if you don't have the.
That's not true. I bought it when I don't have it.
You don't have the armadillo, or you don't have the roller beetle?
Nope. I got started on it, and I need to do a bounty, but nobody ever wants to do a bounty. So I got stuck. Because I missed the initial when everybody was doing it, because I don't remember, something was going on. I didn't have time. So now I'm stuck on the bounty.
We'll have to get a group together and do the bounty.
Yeah.
It's
but
just
I totally
bounty,
bought
right?
the armadillo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally bought the armadillo skin because I didn't know when it would come back. So I wanted to make sure I got it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, see, chat's already willing to help you out. Yeah,
Figure that out, the timing, check in Discord, because it's driving me crazy. I tried to do one by myself, and I made a fair dent in it, but then it's not doable.
Now, did you try it after the Elementalist buff?
No.
You just look at it and it disintegrates. You're like, that was easy.
It wasn't that much of a buff.
Just wait till next Tuesday when they're like, we up Arlie's Elementalist skills and oh wait, no, last week she was trying to take our snack bar. We personally nerfed her Elementalist. But also you can get a bunch of, if maybe you don't want the infinite unbound magic gathering tool set, if you're willing to spend a little bit more, so for a whole set, they put out some of the old returning different gathering tools. So for 1,000 gems a piece, you can get the Bone Pick, the Tireless Harvesting Minion, the Tireless Logging Minion, the Consortium Harvesting Sickle, Frost Wasp Logging Tool, Jack in the Box Scythe, Shifting. Yeah, I kind of regret ever having one. I wish I could trade it for any other.
Every time somebody uses it, I'm like,
Yeah, it's because I don't know why in my mind I was like, oh, they're probably not going to keep doing all these, but why wouldn't they?
Right.
Different skins or something, but I was like, maybe. But Shifting Sands, Mining Pick, Fused Molten Logging Axe, Fused Molten Sickle, and Molten Alliance Mining Pick. So you could definitely pick each of those up for 1,000 gems. Not all of them. That would be a tremendous deal. I would just buy it just for that.
That would be insanity.
Yeah. But yeah, for 1,000 gems a piece, so not too bad. Kind of the standard price of what they go for now. Also, and would you recommend some? We already heard the ones that you wouldn't recommend. The Jack in the Box Scythe, which I agree.
Honestly, any of those, they're all good. I think the Consortium, that doesn't have a special animation, right?
The Harvesting, I think that's the one that has the quick. Isn't that supposedly still the quickest animation? Because it literally is one quick swoop, and you can just because it shoots up water or something, and then
that's what I was thinking. Like it's a great one to get if you don't like all the frills, animations, and stuff. If you want something simple.
And I mean, if you're like a minion mancer, like necro type person, get the Bone Pick, the Tireless Harvesting Minion, and the Tireless Logging Minion, and deck your character out. You're using your minions for everything.
All the minions.
Speaking of my minions, oh boy. So next up we have gliders. 500 gems, you can get the Geomancer glider. And for 400 gems, you can get the Abaddon's glider, Electromagnetic Descender glider, Exalted glider, and Magic Carpet glider for 400 gems apiece. But like I said, the only one that's 500 gems is that Geomancer glider, which I think is that the one that's the giant flaming meteor?
I think so. That sounds right.
I was gonna say that one's pretty cool as well. I mean, you're basically just riding a meteor.
Yeah.
I wish that could be a mount. Let that be a roller beater mount. I want to ride a giant flaming meteor ball.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Somehow make them all roller beater mounts. I want to ride a giant Abaddon head around. Oh my god, I do want that actually.
They could do it like, you know how a lot of games have been doing crossovers with other games? They could do a crossover with Final Fantasy 14 and the meteor be a mount, like, because they reset Final Fantasy 14 by having a meteor hit it and blow everything up.
I was going to say, is that going to be like canonical for Final Fantasy? Is the thing that made it the Realm Reborn was a Guild Wars 2 player riding a meteor into the...
Yes! That'd be amazing.
I bet their fan base would love that idea. Guild Wars 2 just smashed your game. What?
And made it better.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome from ArenaNet. Oh god, people would be like, "That's an outrage! I quit the game forever." That's my internet voice. But yeah, definitely pick up those gliders. Head skins that have returned for 200 gems apiece. You can get bunny ears, devil horns, the ferocious cat ears, and the wizard's hat. So you can pick
cat ears and bunny ears are totally worth it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I picked up the bunny ears just because it was like one of those things that was like, who knows?
Well, they didn't come back for the longest time. Like people were yelling about it.
Yeah. So you never know when those will go away. So definitely pick them up when you can. Also some minis. So 500 gems a piece is the mini beetle and the mini Mordrum lay leecher. So 500 gems a piece. 400 gems a piece, the mini Zaishen puppy and the mini plush Arene. Oh. And for 350 gems, mini Drewbird's ghost, mini Bonebreaker, mini Sand Giant, mini Zintel Cavalier, mini Cormier cat, mini Crichton floppy fish, and mini Sabbatha. So
yay.
Would you recommend any of those minis?
All of the minis.
All of them. Okay. Well, there goes your bank account, everybody, if you haven't got any of those. But yeah, so those are all returning items, apart from, like I said, the first two, which were the Nightwatch Stole and the Black Line Expedition contract. So definitely check all those stuff out and make sure to get what you want. Remember, you can always trade gold to gems if you got them, if you got the money. Any final thoughts on Gem Store as a whole? I think my dogs do. Cormier cat is meta. Get out. Ban. How do I?
Why are you such a hater, Dale?
It's Cormier. All right. Last up for Community Corner, we have Arc DPS update. So now supports Wing 6 bosses, and a window styles allows you to compress things further for space. So
yay.
That's always nice. If you're using Arc DPS, definitely make sure to update for all the new stuff. And unfortunately, I really don't raid, so I can't really say how much better it is or anything like that. Or it's Cormier true, but puns are okay. Fair enough. The puns. Okay, I'll give it to you on the pun. All right. And also, Mighty Teapot is having an amateur raiding party, November 10th, 17th, and 18th. The goal is to clear to the finish, including the new Mythrite Gambit wing, over 20,000 gold pot. Non-elitist raiding party competitors are allowed to enter, and 16 teams with first round being qualified. 16 teams with the first round being qualifier for prizes. So if you kind of make it through that, you're guaranteed to get something. Pretty cool. Nice little event. And in case you do want that, and as always, if you're watching this on YouTube, the links will be in the description. And if people want to sign up for that, since we've kind of been talking about raids a lot this episode, maybe you watch the guild chat and you're like, I definitely want to get in that. Maybe you could be like that person that came from nothing and win it all. You could be the success story that we all want to be. But yeah, definitely check that out. Any thoughts on the competition? You
That's
think
awesome.
it's good for the community?
Yeah.
We can always have more events.
Yeah.
But anyway, that looks like that is it for this week. And Robin, where can they find you?
At Arlie82 on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. Woo!
Throwing out the Instagram.
Yeah, I know.
What's this Instagram? I only know Twitter.
Everybody instas these days. Get with the times.
I know. That irritates me because I see like, oh hey, this cool thing happened to me, and it's like a thing on Twitter, and I click and it goes to Instagram. I'm like, what the? Don't do that.
Yeah, and Instagram is not friendly if you don't actually have an Instagram. Trying to see things without it, it can be a real pain sometimes.
Apparently, that's why you have to get an Instagram. So.
Yep.
Shameful. Right. Well, if you get an Instagram to go view stuff, make sure to follow Arlie over there. So, and you can find me at simply_Dale on Twitch and Twitter. And oh boy, this work's been hectic, so haven't had that much time to stream. Barely play any games as is. But hopefully get to stream something here soon, you know. But if you're coming at the very end, do stick around. We do a bit of an after show. Hopefully maybe next week we'll have more people. I don't know. Well, actually, I don't know. Who
knows? I won't be here next week, so hopefully you have other people.
It might just be me, people. Don't unsubscribe, please. I'll try to get someone if that's the case. But yeah, if you are just popping at the very end, do stick around. If you want to watch us in full, we do highlight on Twitch. We do put it up on YouTube Sunday and on Sundays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. But if you want to see all this stuff in one place, or even like we do Vote to Kick, you can catch all that stuff if you go to MAAD Realms, and that's 2 A's in the MAAD, maadrealms.com, and that's where we put the podcast stuff, and that's where we have an audio version. I know people like the audio version, an audio version for the Talking Skritt podcast. So there you go. That's a place to check it out. And yeah, that is it for this week. We'll see everybody next time, and we'll always see you in the game. Good night, everybody. Where the heck did you go?